top flip-flops.
Rolex mixtapes.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 83 of High Top Flip Flops. Shit, I think it might be 84. 84 of High Top Flip Flops. As always, this is Krish. I'm here with Nivake, and today we have an incredibly special guest. Today we have singer, songwriter, visionary, ragam expert, all-around incredible human being, Rolex Rasathy. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me.
We hope that introduction, did you justice. I'm sure there's a lot of other things that you encompass and that you are. Maybe we'll touch on them here and there, maybe, as this episode goes on. But thank you so
beautiful.
much.
Thank you.
I'm glad. We're glad. You are joining us right now from New York. Nivake, drop the accent again, please.
Hey, I need some coffee. Get out of the way. What is?
We're losing.
What is it? I'm walking in. That's
We're losing all of anyone who's from New York who's listening to the show. Is we officially lost the viewership, which is the goal, obviously.
Listen, I love doing a good Toronto accent too, which I probably suck at. So
try.
Do it.
I mean,
good.
please lay it on us.
Right now, really?
If you're up for it. I mean, Nivake just, mono
Okay.
and mono, right?
Okay. Yo, guy, what are you saying though?
That's precisely what Nivake sounded like in 4th grade. So there you go.
Wow. That's how I used to talk, actually. But you just proved how terrible the Toronto accent is, man. As in, like, not your impression, but that's people really speak like that.
You know what? It's a point where I think it has been bastardized to a point where I feel like your impression is a great bastardized version of it, which is like actually what.
Right. I realized that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good impression of a weird, way that people talk.
That's right.
Like, why did they do that? So.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I hope I didn't offend anyone. Like, Toronto is like my heart and my home. So like I don't mean any offense. I think
Of course.
it is all out of love at
Of
the
course.
end of the day.
Of course. And like we said too, it's very clear that the Toronto, the accent or the slang even has been you could say co-opted. It got popularized, right, by like people like For Y'all Entertainment. You can even argue, maybe not in the greatest of way, you can even argue that like someone like Lily Singh even kind of like shown a light on it, maybe in maybe not the most productive fashion. And that
really
what's that?
She really knocked it out of the park. Like it's just it's some great sketch comedy that
sketch comedy that's not sketch comedy. Yeah,
exactly.
But Rolex Rasathy, it has been a very long time that this has been in the making. So much has happened since I think the last time we tried to do this. You've obviously been continuing to make a lot of music. Pre-March 2020, you were performing and you were making music videos and you were living your fullest kind of artistic life. Obviously, things have changed very drastically within the past 12 months. We're pretty much about a year into living through this pandemic. I imagine a lot has changed for you, but I suppose our first question for you is, what is something that's been keeping you grounded lately? What's been something that's helping you kind of work through these, for lack of a better word, uncertain times?
Yeah, to be honest, I feel like it changes so much. It's been so long, right? And like at different times, like I would have said like food. Honestly, maybe food. And I don't think, Krish, like you're like the like base god, like amazing cook, but like I'm not like that. I feel like I will go and get different types of food, especially where I live in Queens. It's just so diverse with the cuisines and stuff. And I'm just like, okay, this is the one thing that'll keep me sane, like trying different types of food.
Yeah.
And that's just like some level of comfort, um, that I feel like is very hard to find these days, right?
Yeah.
And variety and, new experiences are hard to find. So I feel like food has been one thing that's kind of in this like unanticipated way been kind of keeping things like fresh and cool.
Do you currently have a favorite big bagel or sandwich that you go to?
Bagel or sandwich? They're
Specifically.
right. I was
Mhm.
like, because I'm from New York.
No, no, it's not. It's not even like that. It's not even like that. Because I personally have a bagel that I look forward to in the morning, and I also have a sandwich that I go for. I just assume other people do too. You know,
Yeah. No, I feel like
but
I'm not very like particular.
like,
Okay, favorite bagel or sandwich? Okay, I feel like, yeah, I don't have a favorite like that, but I do like a good like cold cuts. Like I feel like pastrami. Like, oh yeah, I'm living big if I'm eating that.
Gabagool. Yeah, that sounds great.
yes,
Sorry, please continue.
Gabagool.
um, yeah. Wait, I didn't get that reference actually.
I'm
Can you
sorry. That was a
explain?
stupid Sopranos reference.
Sopranos.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Shout out to all the
I
Soprano
regretted it
heads.
as soon as I said it. I was just like,
HBO,
oh,
what up?
it's so stupid. It's just like a type of sliced meat that is.
Oh, got it.
I'm
Okay,
so sorry.
okay.
Please
No,
continue.
no, no, it's
Pastrami,
okay.
delicious.
No, pastrami's great. Okay, now that you say it though, like a bagel with lox, that
Ooh,
is when you're living large. And when
damn.
you're living a good life is when you're eating bagel with lox. So I feel like in an ideal
Mm,
world, like that is my bagel.
Ooh, man, the cured
wow,
salmon, the cream cheese, the capers. I feel like it's the capers that really throw it
brilliant.
over the edge. Incredible. What you know what? Actually, this is a question that I'm certainly curious to know. What kind of, if at all, what kind of like Thummel like stores to what extent is there even Thummel stores or restaurants in Queens?
Yeah, to be honest, like there's not a lot at all.
Mm,
Like, and it's not like there isn't a population here, but I think it's just not it's definitely very small in comparison
yeah,
to Toronto,
for
but
sure.
they're a little scattered and I feel like there's not a super huge amount of like cohesion.
Mm-hmm.
Um there is in Staten Island though, there is a street of like it's called Little Sri Lanka, and
Oh
that is
wow.
New York's Little Sri Lanka is in Staten Island. So, but
True.
like it's an island, so like you got to take a ferry to get there,
Think
or
about
you
it.
know like you got to drive. But it's worth the trek. One of my friends recently referred to it as like the pilgrimage to Staten Island because literally you go there
Yeah.
to get kotroti. You go there to like get all of this like food that like hits your heart. Like
Yeah.
when I'm not able to go to Toronto, like
Mm-hmm.
So Staten Island is where you can like really get this like full experience, get your idiyappam, put the kotroti, everything
Incredible.
in a proper type of way. So yeah, it is honestly like kind of like a pilgrimage. I feel like when I can go with my friends and we went on that ferry over, it's a very soulful experience.
Damn.
It's very interesting that you say that because I always assumed Staten Island was just like home for just pure racism, but you're saying that there's like almost shops out there. Like, that's kind of
Yeah, the I think the biggest group of Sri Lankan Tamil people and Sri Lankan people generally like live in Staten Island in New York. Like that's the biggest group of them. So
Wow.
it is what you're saying does exist there, but I think they're like in the south of Staten Island, and so they were kind of responsible for this like first like the second wave kind of starting up again, right? Because
Mm,
those people that is definitely a population that exists, but like there's also like a lot of brown people and Sri Lankan people, I feel like in certain areas.
true.
Yeah,
True.
but
mm,
Wow. That is, yeah. I think it's always really I mean, especially for, I'll speak for myself as like someone who's not super well traveled and like not someone who's quite truthfully like taking the time to like really like study or learn about like Tamil diaspora in different parts of the world. I'm like always very fascinated by thinking about Sri Lankan Tamil diaspora in America, especially just because of how vast it is and how spread out people are. Obviously, like the large groups always come to mind, whether it's like in Toronto or Switzerland, in
Mm,
Swiss,
this-
or like England.
This is
Um,
that's a big one.
yeah, you go to Swiss. It's not Switzerland. People got it twisted. There are no Tamil people in Switzerland. The
no, no,
population
no,
is
no.
zero. It's in Swiss.
They're Swiss.
Y'all don't know about that. Swiss
Yeah,
passport.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, true.
But I am curious to know in in the travels that in the traveling that you've done um from making your art for performing, like you shot a music video in Iceland, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I assume that, okay, see here, like my first thought is like, oh yeah, I assume there's no Tamil people in Iceland, but I'm curious to know, did you meet any Tamil people in Iceland?
Oh, no.
Okay. I had a
I
feeling.
would have liked to. I think like the first person of color I saw, I was like excited.
Yeah.
It was like, so that's kind of like, yeah, the vibe there is
Yeah.
it's not really a Tamil zone. So I feel like
Yeah.
it was yeah, when I went, it was myself, the person who shot it, so the director, DOP, and then the producer, Kiwi. So the three of us were like, yeah, like people of color walking around looking very odd in this
Yeah.
place. But yeah. But I mean, it is a beautiful place and a wholesome experience in that type of way.
Yeah.
There was also another huge storm. I'm saying this because the last time I tried to be on this podcast, there was a storm. So yeah, there was like an insane storm. And in that video, actually, like you'll see me in certain scenes, the wind is like blowing really crazy. And that was because like literally like I thought my skin was about to rip
Holy
off from
shit.
how bad the wind was. It was like
Gee.
40 miles per hour. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but to that level, like it was really crazy. But it's a beautiful country, and like the fact that all of that was like shot in like one country, it just shows like how diverse in terms of the land it is, like
Mhm.
the nature and those types of things. It's very diverse
Yeah.
in that way. So,
Yeah. Diverse geographically.
right.
Geographic diversity. That's important.
It is important.
Be important.
Did you, and was that a decision that I mean, I imagine you weren't forced to do it, but was that an idea or a decision that you kind of made or you had when it came to shooting that music video? That like, yo, there's all this beautiful geography in Iceland. Why not go there to shoot? Yeah, was that something that you kind of thought of and conceived of for the music video?
Yeah. I would say that was an idea that kind of was like just born in my head. I mean, to be fair, there were these really beautiful videos taken in Iceland that preceded me, like Justin Bieber. Like I don't know if you heard of Justin Bieber's "I'll Show You" was taken there,
Okay.
and there's a couple of videos that have been taken in Iceland that I was just like so mesmerized by,
Mhm.
and I was this song like was being created, and there's just a lot of very like ethereal vibes in it, and
Mhm.
I was like, what will be like? I feel like it's such a like expansive, beautiful place to be able to fit that the feel of that song and the vibe I was
Exactly.
going for with the song. So like it kind of just like happened, and like I mean I fully like executed this project. I feel like kind of on my own. Like I was like, okay, but
Hmm.
then next step, will I be able to afford these plane tickets? And like I was like,
Yeah.
and then it all just kind of happened. And yeah, that was very much. I feel like generally all of my music videos, like I'm very hands on. It's not really
That's great.
it. A lot of people, I think maybe with Robin, it's like there was definitely a lot of people who believed in each other and a team for sure. But I'm very hands on and like to be like very directive with my projects like that. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
it's incredible. It was a yeah, really kind of, I think that was a big part of why I was curious to know, is because it is like it is it was unexpected, I think, in a lot of ways, and definitely like very surprising and kind of exciting. I should have clarified this to listeners ahead of time. This is for Rolex Rasathy's song "I Love the Way." This is the music video that we're referring to, that is shot in Iceland. um and yeah, I think you brought up the Raven music video, which I think is very different. It's unique and really fun in a very different way. But I would love to know how that the kind of idea, I mean, um what, correct me if I'm wrong, but was it shot in Toronto?
Yeah, it
Okay.
was shot in Toronto.
Okay.
Mhm.
I make that assumption because there are familiar faces in the video, which is really
Right.
cool.
Yeah.
Most of which, or many of which, come from Toronto. So yeah, I would love to know how that came together, where you kind of you told this very specific story over the course of the video, which yeah, I'd love to know how that came together.
Yeah, I wish I could pinpoint like this one. I mean, I do remember, I can pinpoint this, like the moment that the song tune came in my head. Like it was literally like very weird times, and I'm not very intentional, I think, with my creative process. It's things that pop up in my head and
Right.
ideas that pop up in my head. So literally it was like probably I get a lot of ideas when I travel. So
Okay.
this is when actually it was at my uncle's 50th birthday party at fucking like probably Jasmine Banquet Hall or some shit, probably Markham Convention Center. Okay, and like I think I remember that moment like in exactly where I was standing when the tune was like birthed in my head, and I was like,
Wow.
and so like it, turned into a voice note. I captured on my phone, and that was the process of the song. In terms of the video, I think the video, like I just had this like the lyric wise, I was like, this is gonna be something that I feel like it's going to be something that's very new, and I
Yes.
feel like there needs to be like an epic type of storyline to fit that. Especially like in Tamil music, I feel like there wasn't really this type of voice and this type of
Yeah.
storyline and this type of plot, this type of way of celebrating women.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of where the storyline came through, and I definitely had a lot of like very grand like ideas for it,
Definitely.
and
Definitely.
we like worked through what was actually possible, and with again a very limited team, honestly. I'm so thankful for the director, the videographer, VM Images,
Shout out
Vitu, and
VM
then
Images.
and Mandeep, both of them together, like literally the fire that you see in the back, like they like dug that, like put the stakes in the ground, poured the gasoline, lit up the fire, and they had to shoot this video too. Like these
Damn.
guys worked so hard to like help bring this vision
That's
to life.
incredible. That's incredible.
It was a whole last project, and it wasn't this big type of team that I feel like people expected after seeing that video went into it. So yeah, again, I think that was a video that I really think came together with a lot of people power, a lot of like people believing each other and having faith in each other. So yeah, the video kind of just came through like that. And a big component I think of that was me being able to find an actor who would play this like fuckboy type of thing.
No.
And I was like praying to God, going through like, God, please bring me a fuckboy in the one time I'm asking for, right? And like and somehow this guy literally is talking like in his captions. He's like, I love playing a villain. The villain is my favorite thing to play. I was like, yo, are you serious? Like, this is the best fit I could possibly.
Wow.
And he was down for it, and he like acted so well. And yeah, that was kind of a lot of different processes that just somehow, God willing, ended up working out.
Damn.
Thanks to God, actually. Yes,
And
God for.
that video was so good. It made me jealous because I wanted to be the scumbag that got
Oh
jumped by
my
all the
God,
girls.
Nivake! Why
Like,
couldn't you tell me this beforehand?
I was like, first of all, he's wearing 10 chains. I would love to wear 10 chains over a turtleneck with a jean jacket over it. Like, perfect.
To speak on collaborations too, something that one of my I think on top of Robin, and I really like Nalla Pillai, because I feel like you kind of came through with some bars on the song, which
Ooh, thanks.
we had seen to a certain degree, but I feel like this one was just like a little bit more upbeat. It also wasn't necessarily um melodic in the same way that a song like I Love the Way was, or Robin, which is like a dance, something that's like more dancey, more upbeat. The song is like there's like this like it's got like this like like action paction vibe to it, simply put, where it's like very forward moving, it's very
Action.
fast action.
New word added to my vocabulary.
Exactly. Yeah, that's like yeah. But
Sorry.
but no,
I interrupted you.
and I know that that's also something that that's like more music that you kind of travel for. Freaking
Swiss.
Miss
This was
World.
Swiss.
This was Swiss. I had a feeling it was Swiss.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it? A similar process of you know, really wanting to kind of expand your own, like did it feel like a challenge to kind of take on a song like that, given that it was something that in a lot of ways was a bit different from what you'd already created?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, the story of like how it happened is like kind of crazy.
Mm.
I was telling someone yesterday, I was working on it, like it was fully spontaneous. I actually wasn't there for music. I was there for a family trip that my dad insisted we all go on and go to different places in Europe and obviously visit relatives.
Tour the
So
Swiss.
so
Incredible.
and visit, like I hadn't really been to Europe like that before. So I, being the hustler that I think I was for a good amount of my life, I was just like, listen, I'm going to weave in as many opportunities as I can to make music and to work on
Wow.
projects. And sorry,
No,
I
no.
told so as I'm hitting people up, it just kind of like happened. Like Sophia, I told her that I was in town, and she was like, yo, there's this song. And I was like, wait, this is kind of crazy. I can't write, record, shoot a music video in all this time. I'm literally in Switzerland, I think for 2 days or 1.5 days
You're
at
joking.
that point. Yeah,
Wow.
no, it was like, yeah, I think it was like 2 days basically. It was an evening. I like distinctly remember because I flew in, Sophia picked me up from the airport. We drove to the place where we recorded.
Mhm.
I recorded that night. We planned the music video that night. Next morning, full day we shot.
Wow.
And that's it. So insanely spontaneous video.
Wow.
And I guess to answer your original question, like it I think that and so the lyrics for that, I was actually on the train in London and I just had this like interview at BBC
Mm.
with Ashanti Omkar. And I was like, yeah. She was like, yeah, what are you working on? I was like, yeah, like Sophia told me about this project, but there's no way I could do it. Like, I'm gonna be there for a day. And she was like, what? And she like basically like I feel like she's really good at like motivating and like
Mm.
talking to me in a very like, yo, you can do this, you got this type of way. And so then on the train ride back home from that interview, I was like sandwiched between my mom and my dad. And I listened to the song, I was like, yo, yes. And it all just came out. It was like honestly a little like effortless. And I feel like it's again the way that sometimes my creative process it'll just hit me in these weird ways.
Incredible.
So yeah.
First of all, it's incredible that you all pulled that off in such a short span. I also feel like your
Thank
dad
you.
probably wasn't very happy that you weren't joining them for all the family visits. I was like, I mean, obviously, I'm thinking about how intense that schedule is over the course of a day and a half. But I also just picture your dad very grumpy, just being like, "She's not here. she's out being busy."
Honestly, I think now that I mentioned that interview that happened in London, I feel like that was a moment which kind of, I don't know if it was a shift, but like that was maybe the first moment that I saw my parents being like, okay, she's like doing this interview by this like at this reputable place, like BBC, like oh, like but until that, it's like my parents were. It was really, I mean, also when relatives are like hitting them up and being like, yo, you're like okay, your daughter, that's pretty cool, and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I feel like it's all these little things that kind of like made them kind of like be a little bit more chill about it. I would say for a long time, and I mean maybe even partly now, like it's kind of like, yo, what are you doing? Like, when I was like trying to write music and they're like not really seeing that path for me in any way at all. Like
Yeah.
I never even saw that path for me until very recently in my life. So yeah, during that trip, I think my dad was like, I think he like that was kind of during that point, I think, where like after that interview where like he was like he talked to Ashanti Omkar at BBC. It was just like, yo, like okay, like I feel like I felt there was a little bit of, I'm a little bit proud of you. And I know it's like hard to get that. I don't even know if he's ever said that to me like that, but like you could just tell a little bit. And it's
Yeah.
hard to get that right with brown dads. So that was that was one moment, and I think so. Like he's generally been like been the one to like he'll be like, yeah, do you need a ride? I'll drive you to this place
Wow.
to this shoot, and kind of got in more of a supportive vibe, like
Wow.
which it's crazy to think how much growth even our parents can have, like
Yeah.
from
Mhm.
where he was, yeah, where my parents were years ago. It's just yeah, I think it was one nice thing that's kind of happened with me writing music and being more myself,
Yeah.
so
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, if I may, on parents, parents are such an interesting concept, you know, because
Concept.
they raise us, and sometimes they're not given the choice to even have us. Sometimes they do have that choice,
Mm.
and then we're in a constant struggle with them to see, do they like me, or you know, are they opposed to me? And then when I'm doing something, are they gonna be like, come up to me and be like, this is hard, or are they gonna ignore it? And then, but we want to know what they think though,
yeah.
which is
Yeah.
an odd thing that we all, I can't speak for everybody on the Zoom or even everybody in my neighborhood, but do we all try to get our parents' approval? Do we all need that? Like, what's
Yeah.
up with that?
What's up with
Hmm.
that? What's up with parents? What's up with parents? It's like shit Seinfeld impression.
Yeah.
What's the deal with them? They raise us and then they hate us. I think that's the name of the episode right there.
That's good. That's good.
But no, you know when you talked about your dad, brown dads just not being the greatest. I was about to say, oh yeah, brown dads love showing, not telling, but I was like, brown dads love not really showing and definitely not telling. but but I think you brought up something really special, is that the fact that, like, he, and I think this is something that I've certainly seen, is like, rather than the like, hey, I'm proud of you and this is really amazing what you're doing, or like, yeah, like, I love you unconditionally and I support you unconditionally, those two things are conveyed by like, well, where do you need to go? All right, I'll take you. Or what time's your bus? All right, we're gonna go. We're gonna take you your bus.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yes, yes. And you know what? I realized that when learning about like love languages, and
Mm.
I don't know how much you
Oh,
guys like know about
Oh,
that.
yes.
And I was like,
no.
oh wow. I think my dad's love language is like acts of service, because man's is ready to drive me anywhere, anytime, pick me up anytime, any
Mm.
place, no matter where.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it's like, yeah, I was like, that was kind of like this like whoa light bulb for me, because acts of service is not my top love language, I
Mm.
think, at all. So then it's interesting, I think, when we have these like incompatibilities and like kind of when we're trying to read each other like that, it's like, oh, like, right, as you said, it's like, oh, like he's willing to drive me anywhere anytime, like that's maybe how he's able to express it.
Yeah.
And like that's, I've learned to appreciate that. I mean, I love my dad, and yeah,
Yeah.
Papa, I love you. Like, if
He-
you do listen to
He's
this.
definitely listening. I was gonna say earlier, when you were like,
Mm.
when you mentioned, like, they really, it kind of clicked with them, how serious you are about your music and how seriously people take you, as they should. When you did this BBC interview, I was about to say, I'm like, just so you know, they're gonna be, financially backing you after they listen to this episode. I hope you know that it's
Oh
gonna
yes.
get to that level. Certainly not, but we
Mm.
hope, maybe. Um, I
Shout out to
did.
BBC.
Shout out to BBC.
Shout out to
That's right.
BBC.
Shout out to BBC for sure.
Even though
They,
Nivake had a like, I hate British people. Shout.
oh no,
She knows. Thank you for calling
no.
it out. Here I am on my ones, just trying to be like, Nivek, you can't just write off a whole fucking
You know
nation.
what? I love this right here. This is excellent. She heard something she didn't like and she called me out right now. And
That's right.
I'm gonna respond.
Go ahead.
The thing is, for breakfast they eat beans. So it's like, how do I like, cereal, bagel.
Bagel.
I eat fun.
I eat bagel and sandwich, both for breakfast.
I do the worst. But then they take a toast, right? Normally I put butter on it. You put butter on it?
Dude,
Yeah.
they put butter on it too.
They take the whole Heinz bean can and they just drizzle that like it's barbecue sauce or something. Like, no, don't do that. But you know what? What I do have to say about the UK, because honestly, what like I was gonna say, I can't shout out their leadership because that's
Fair,
not good.
fair.
They destroyed the whole world.
Yeah. See, Nivake is
So
Nivake. Yeah, you know what? It's fair. You know, Nivake, you were bringing up some points, man. It wasn't just about the beans and toast. It was about, it was about being critical of the way that, colonization has disrupted the world, but
it's
fair.
it's overstanding versus understanding. On that, I was overstanding, but everybody else is understanding.
Oh, I see.
But
I see.
the root of it was, Britain took the whole
Oh,
world, and they did what they did to it. But what are the
yeah.
good things? What are the good things? British television is usually very good, right?
Okay.
Solid always. Sex education, they have two brown
Very true.
people on there.
That's
So,
right. One is Tamil. One of the actresses is
oh,
Tamil. It's pretty cool.
Whoa.
shout outs.
Um,
That's
but thank you,
but yeah.
It's reassuring, or not reassuring. It's just nice to know people are listening. They're really taking in his words.
Mhm.
That's important to us. People are listening. But
Yeah.
um,
No, colonialism is real though.
that's
I was even I was even today just like even just us being in these like cold countries. I was like, yo, all of this is why are we living this life? My body's not meant to be in this temperature wearing like jacket. Like all of it is all rooted to. So you have a point of it. I'm not a. I get you.
Yeah, like we all truly deserve to be, cracking open a mango on a
cracking
large
open.
field.
It's not a fucking beer can. Just crack a
And
cold one with the bowels over there. Just crack it open.
cracking open that mango and then lying on a nice field. Like that's what we should, while sun hits us. That's what we should be feeling right now.
Not a beach, a field. He's very specific about that.
But also ocean
Yeah.
beach waves. Yeah,
That's right.
depending
That's
on where you
right.
live.
Very great.
Well,
Nivake's all about the meadows, clearly.
Oh, okay.
I'm a meadow guy.
I'm a meadow guy. Um, I want to transition a little bit here. When we think about like that kind of acceptance, particularly from your parents, you kind of spoke about um, something that's like very very difficult for um, you know people like Nivek and I who who we obviously are very fortunate to have people who listen to this podcast and engage with us, and tell us when we say wild things about
Mhm.
whole nations, but generally speaking, we also have not been on the receiving end of a lot of like hate or kind of like um just like bigotry, and I think it's certainly something that like we know to a great degree. It's something you've experienced, one, as a result of being like a woman who makes art, which is a very like sad that like, well, one, it goes below being a woman who makes art, it just goes being like a woman on the internet, a Tamil woman on the internet. But we're it's very clear to us that like that's something that you and many other artists, uh Tamil women, have kind of experienced just for like existing, which is obviously not only really painful, but it's not really something that Nivek and I can kind of speak to. And yeah, I suppose as important as it is, and as like as clearly as you've kind of demonstrated, how much you're like you've persevered, and you've continued to like continue to make your art without listening to these kind of idiots. um I guess I was kind of curious to know if it ever has like if it ever has gotten to you, if it ever has kind of made you want to like be like fuck all of this, fuck all of you, I'm out of here. um yeah, because it's scary. It's not something that we can really speak to as people who aren't necessarily kind of like public facing in the same way that you've been with your music.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Honestly, I I'm just like really sensitive, okay? Like that's one part of it. That's one part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and proportionately, it's not like 90% hate, 10% are fucking with me. It's like mostly people are like supportive, right? But then
Mhm.
there's the people who will make it their one duty to get in your live stream and send you like explicitives. I'm so sorry. My
No, no, no worries.
English.
No worries. No worries.
First of all, you don't ever have to apologize for the English language.
Oh, right. Sure. Oh, yo, straight up, straight up.
That's I made the same mistake. I was mispronouncing some word. I was like, yeah, forget it. It's not my
Wow,
shit.
that's the outlook I need in life. Nivake,
Exactly.
thank you. Yeah, yeah, but it's like I feel like there was one time I feel like in June where I was like I planned this like gig and I was like really excited about doing this, and it's like somehow they'll manage to just come through
Mm.
and pull through, and a lot of times it is Tamil dudes. And I was actually just talking earlier, so like it's like not all Tamil dudes, like
Yeah, it's okay. You don't have to. Yeah.
I was telling a friend about your podcast, and I was just like, these guys are like unproblematic brown guys, which are rare to find. So like you're
We
both
have
unicorns,
we
and
have hey, no. We have propensity to cause harm, you know? We certainly do, and that's just kind of the truth, and that's okay. We have to acknowledge it and just think about how to be better. But
yeah, I mean,
at the same time, right? There's clearly tons
no,
of people who just like are either so blinded by what they've kind of been conditioned to believe, or just have so much anger or hate, and taking
yeah,
it out on women is the way that they choose to do that. But sorry, please
yeah.
continue.
I mean, I think ultimately, like the perspective that one needs to have is like, I mean, clearly, like this person is at like a low place in their life or is suffering through some way if they're having to use their energy to do that, right?
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, like how much do I have to bear, and why do I have to be bearing that type of burden?
Hmm.
Why do I have to get this type of stuff like yelled at me when I'm not? And this is happened. I mean, even in person, I've had these like terrible ass vibes from like double dudes at gigs.
Mm.
Whereas like even this past year, not having gigs, it's fucking sucks because I love performing, but it's like, oh, not having those vibes at like these like Tamil gigs.
Mm.
Wow, like
That's peace.
it's
You're at
it's
peace. Yeah.
it's it's a type of peace that I feel like, and that's not to say all Tamil gigs either, because like there are those like I feel like people are trying to create safe spaces in some ways, but I think the type of party that I guess
Hmm.
like I'm talking about, and yeah, I think like ultimately it's um you have to realize that it is their problem at the end of the day, right? And it's not mine. But that also requires a level of like mental fortitude, which I wish that I fucking had.
Yeah.
And I think I mean, like, there are moments where I do have it, but I think especially like in like years like this past year where it was just hard, like losing my grandparents, like I lost both of my like paternal grandparents within like 10 days of each other. And it was just like, and then
Sorry.
COVID and South by Southwest got canceled. I was like, bitch, can
Yeah.
this just can
Yeah.
it's just
My God.
one after the other.
Yeah.
Not to make this podcast
No, no,
sad.
no, no.
Sorry, I
Hey,
wanted to
we
be an
we make
uplifting
we make
podcast.
we make space for it all. We make space for it all.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, it's yeah, I appreciate you asking, because I feel like that's like one thing I like would like to get over, and I think the way that I've been kind of dealing with it is not really being super active on social media, which is like, I mean, that should not be the option, right? Like,
Yeah.
but I think, yeah, you have to like kind of take care of yourself and take care of your mental health, like as like, your first checkpoint, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I think not being so much on social media is like not like giving as much opportunity for those kinds of voices to step in.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, thank you. Thanks for sharing that with us and kind of talking about it publicly, because like you said, it's like there's like, I can imagine there are people that you speak to, and there are people that I mean, sometimes I'm sure it's something that even enters our own minds, which is like, oh, if we stop showing up, or if we stop kind of like entering this like digital public forum that is, you know, fucking social media, that like they win, you know, by way of like backing away or like shying away. But I don't think that's necessarily true, especially if it's like, okay, the only place that this person thinks they hold power over me is in like the comment section of Instagram. Then like as soon as I take that away from them, like what do they have and what piece do I gain, right? What piece do
Yeah.
you gain? And
Yeah.
that's like a very, very, very difficult thing. I think also when you kind of consider what like element a role like, I mean, how important as an artist and like, you know, thinking about brand, right? That like being, you know, being active and engaging with people on social media is. But like, I really appreciate that you've kind of taken the stance to be like, I'm gonna make sure that I like am am like in a healthy enough place to like get up out of bed and like see the next day, you know.
Mhm.
Because obviously, you know, you want your art to flourish and you want to feel like you're engaging with the people who are supportive, right? And who are there to kind of like to encourage you. um
Mm.
but yeah, you have to do what you have to do, um ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I don't know if that's necessarily like what my permanent tactic will be, but it's
Mm,
like I right now, like I'm chilling.
that's
You
all that
know?
matters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really all that matters. If it's like, if it's what feels good by you. Hey, Dad. Sick. First time on
Hey,
the
Dad.
pod. He just knew, you know, me being extra calm, extra nice. He's like, hey, Dad. Imagine I was like, Appa! um, for non-Tamil listeners, Appa is the Tamil word for dad. How funny, how funny would it have been if my reflex was just like, "Daddy, get out of here!" Oh shit!
That's
Too funny.
that was really funny because I saw him come in. I saw the hey dad.
You waved to him before
We
I
both waved.
did.
I hope he caught it. Hi to your dad.
He's definitely there. It's not like I didn't tell him that I was doing this. That's okay. That's a good little
That's good.
break from you know, a serious and important conversation. Um, I you know, we actually have a friend a friend of the show, fan of the show, good friend of yours personally, Melinda Yogendran, who actually has a fan submitted question that I'm going to read here really quickly. Um,
Oh my
Melinda
god.
Melinda asks, I would love to hear Rolex Rasathy speak on navigating South Asian male dominated spaces and dealing with people trying to tell her who she needs to be.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah. This is very like very relevant question to be asking because I feel like yeah, like at the end of the day, not even just like Tamil, like in New York, I feel like a lot
Mm,
of it is kind of grouped together into like a South Asian space.
yeah.
And generally they are very like male dominated.
Mm,
How does one navigate? I think it's really like just not getting sucked into, you know, even just like one thing that I think maybe I don't know if that's very like South Asian male driven. Maybe it is just kind of like this like male driven idea of like being like a hustler and like, you know, having to like hustle, like
yeah.
work till you death and
For
like
sure.
I don't think that that's I feel like that type of culture I feel like is a lot of times like celebrated or like looked highly upon in like South
Mhm,
Asian spaces. I mean, granted, like I feel like people are trying to make their mark in this music, and like it's like the people who are like working extremely hard who
mhm,
maybe can only be able to achieve XYZ,
yeah.
make this a sustainable career,
Mhm,
whatever it is. Um, and I think, and maybe that is like a privilege that I have to be able to. I mean, I have another job that I can like work
yeah.
at and not fully you know I do have to hustle with that job, but
Yeah.
I think I think like ultimately just like tapping into like what who you actually are, so that also does take some self-reflection on like is this hustle like mentality like actually truly giving me happiness, because I do think that as I said earlier, I think that was like a huge like part of me for a good amount of time.
Mm.
Like even just like shooting like the music videos that I did, doing the projects that I did, it's like it was like every like waking, breathing, living moment. I was like, I was either at work or I was like doing something towards music. Um, but like I feel like at the end of the day, it's just like, okay, like, am I seeking validation from someone? Am I trying to prove this one person wrong? Am I trying to like, so, right. It's like you kind of have to tap into like, what is the reason that you're doing what you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
And then work accordingly. Right. And I guess that's kind of like how I generally navigate. And, like, yeah, I just can't, I can't be one of those people. I feel like there are a lot of people who can be something or like be a certain type of persona or brand that maybe is not too close to who they are, but
Mm-hmm.
I realize I'm not necessarily that type of person, so I do have to be a little bit more like authentic. I feel like for me to be able to which I mean you guys I feel like you relate to, but yeah, I think it's really about being true to yourself, like as cliche as that might sound. That's I feel like something that's my navigation GPS.
GPS, the Garmin. Yeah.
Yeah, you had fan submitted questions. I didn't.
Well, in
Do
this
we?
case, special fan, special friend,
Wow,
you know?
wow. Thank you, thank you, Mel. I love you. She's my BFF. Okay. Sorry, Nivake.
No, shout out. If I might just talk quickly about hustlers. Maybe the hustler hater circles kind of form a Venn diagram here, so I can kind of address both. But that kind of mentality is, oh, keep hustle, keep work, like get 7 hustles. Um, maybe try, maybe attach a swing to a tree and just sit on it and do nothing else for 1 hour. You know, appreciating just these small instances of happiness, maybe. And for me, I'm not a, I was once thinking like I gotta have 3 jobs, 4 jobs,
Mm-hmm.
but then I realized I don't have to be like that.
Right.
you know um you know what's interesting about this is I originally thought I had something to say here, but I I,
I
I
was
don't.
like, talk to me. This guy's interviewing the SAG Award speech right now. I was like, where's he going? On some Joaquin Phoenix shit.
But you
I,
realize that you didn't have to be this like hustler that I think society tells us to be. Is that am I
that is the gist of it.
You brought it.
Also,
You brought it home for him.
maybe don't be such a damn lame and hit like DM women hate stuff. You lame. Like do something fun. Live your life. Like this is what
DM
you're
us.
doing.
We're
Like
lonely. What the hell?
DM me exclusively. Your thoughts about anything. I'll take them
That's right.
all, and
That's
I'll
right.
respond to all of them with thought.
Mark Zuckerberg, find a way to redirect comments, DMs, whatever it is. Find a way to redirect, just so the same way you can redirect emails if someone sends it to you and you're out of office. Help us out. Redirect, anything that's hate related, just redirect it to the high top one. We'd love this very empty in there. Just bring them our way.
shit? I feel like that wouldn't be too hard for them to figure out how to
Just
work that algorithm or something.
Overlord Mark, man, he knows what to do.
Oh my
But
gosh.
it's yeah. I think the last thing I will say about this kind of like this hustle agenda, which like we know is very much rooted in like a prescribed idea of like what it means to like be successful, what it means to be valid, right? rooted in like our worth, rooted in like what we produce rather than just what we are inherently. I also recognize, that this idea of like hustling becomes a necessity for some people, and I know the two of you know this too, but I think it's worth reflecting on. Is like it becomes a necessity as a result of like sometimes someone's circumstances, and you touched on that
Mm-hmm.
too. Um, but I think the key line is like is thinking about and like being able to identify that like hustling, uh, you know, you commit to hustling as like a to like meet a need, right, or to like address a need, versus it just becoming your personality, right?
Mm.
There are plenty of people who I'm sure we all know who are hustling so hard, working multiple jobs, running multiple projects, and like still being decent and grounded human beings. And it's not that they like don't enjoy that hustle and bustle and like that kind of like busyness, because I'm sure it's exciting and it drives them towards something that they want to do. Something that I hadn't ever considered was like, oh, so I'm sure for a lot of people staying busy is like a way of soothing an anxiety, of like, as a result of maybe like experiencing poverty in your lifetime and like never wanting to like, find yourself in that place again.
Mm.
But at the same time, like it being the thing that kind of like defines you is, I think the way I think I try to think about it is that it's not fair to yourself, right? It's really not fair to yourself to to believe or to kind of like build your identity around what it is that you do and how much you do and how much you make, right? um, and ultimately I think that's so much of what we see happening or has happened to a lot of brown men or to a lot of brown people in these spaces. I mean, it's also very difficult for us to even truly understand what that looks like in the context of America, which is I think is very different. I think that's maybe how I feel. But I think that like there is an added layer to that of um, just like how much kind of like more intense it is, right? Like how much more intense like wage gaps are, how much more
Mm-hmm.
intense like um just like I don't even know if it's a cost of living, but just like how you kind of like make a living. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
these are like these are things that make it as easy as it might be for me to want to just be like fuck off and just like chill out and like take a deep breath, just like Nivake said, it's like build a tire swing and just like swing for a day, for a minute. It's like what makes it very frustrating, and I can imagine what makes it like particularly difficult and kind of like exhausting to constantly have to be up against, right? And constantly have to, they're like, oh shit, here we go again meme. Like that's what I think of.
Mm.
It's just like every time you walk into a room, it's just like, okay, here we go, let's do this all over again.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's definitely a really good point you bring up. Like, I mean, that people, yeah, for some people, it's like there's no option but to hustle for sure. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like I probably still consider myself like a hustler in some sense,
Yeah.
but I think also one key element is like don't look down on people who aren't doing that. It's not like the be all end all for everyone.
Exactly.
It's not necessarily what works for everyone. Like, um and that's not like just like the one way to live, which I think like at one point there's certain like I feel like some narrative that like kind of pushes that's like this is the way, and like you're
Yes.
wasting your life if you're not doing this. And I think that's where it's like, okay, bro, chill. Like
Yes. Yeah.
there's a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To clarify, it's not. I'm not hating on a person
Of
that
course. Of course.
has to work 3 jobs. It's obviously
Yes. Of course.
the real hustler versus the hustler personality,
Mm.
and it's the
Yes.
hustler personality that's can be a problem.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Precisely.
Some say that's pretty infectious.
Sorry.
I
What?
don't know. Uh, there's nothing there. I'm just.
Was that a coronavirus joke? Is that what you're
No,
talking
no,
about?
no,
It's like,
Too
no,
soon.
I was
Too
like,
soon.
Jesus
no,
Christ,
no, no,
man.
no. There's no. Hey, come on,
Hey,
come on. We're not. There's no. There's no need for that because
sorry.
it is a very harmful thing that is really destroying our communities, and I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it.
I'm sick of it. I want it out of here. Get it out of
And
here.
and hey, everybody, go get your AstraZeneca virus.
You were about to say
You
AstraZeneca
said
virus.
virus.
You were about to say AstraZeneca virus.
Oh my
What do they call
God.
vaccine virus, almost the same thing.
Oh,
Get any of the vaccines that pop up. They're all safe. All right, scientists.
Yeah.
They're all safe. I, you know,
yeah.
I keep
Nivake,
thinking,
trusted source. Trusted
you know,
source. Nivake Sukuma.
okay, yeah. But Rolex, or as we established earlier, Roly. Um, you know, something that I wonder. I listen to, songs by artists, other artists, yourself, and I always wonder. Even the song, honestly, I really like you on that production. For honestly,
Thank you.
um, but I wonder, how do you know when to stop working on a song? How do you know the eighth take or the 15th or two or twice is good?
Yeah, that's honestly like I feel like something I battle with still. Like, I think also like first, I don't know, honestly, I think that
Fucking streaming now.
it's like Spotify, all platforms. I think that it's kind of you have to force and like kind of fight against this like inner voice. I think that's just like, yo, I can fine tune this, I can fine tune this. And one way that I've kind of like dealt with that is by like setting like external deadlines that I've told other people.
Right.
And I feel like maybe like with something like honestly, it's like and with the course that I like generally do with like music parties, like announce a date. Oh shit, there's a date. I can't. So sometimes that's kind of how you have to hold yourself accountable. Because if it's just like myself with me and my own, like I could just keep on developing, songs like that. I could just keep on going, and I feel like it's also a little bit the Carnatic like training in me that's just like like way like too much of a perfectionist. But yeah, sometimes you gotta just set deadlines and make the world hold you accountable and in a way if it
Damn,
doesn't
my
if you
God.
can't hold yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We literally were
That's
just
true.
talking about like pressure and trying to relieve ourselves of pressure. And here you are, just being like, hey, new song coming out tomorrow night. Meanwhile, you're just like, you're still writing the lyrics. You're like, here we go.
Giving yourself like a good amount of breathing time, but
Shit.
yeah, I mean, I don't like I don't put out stuff that I'm like not satisfied with though,
Yeah.
so like it's really like putting your 100% as in the steps leading up to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's tough. That's really tough. And
Yeah.
it seems like it's something that's worked for you to also like you said, kind of give yourself that accountability, right? Public accountability. You're gonna have yeah, next
I'm
time you release a song, the like a minute before, you're gonna have Nivake and I just message you like, bro, where's the song? I'm hitting refresh, bro. What are you saying?
Yeah,
Uh,
please, you can help me in that sense. I think it's a balance at the end of the day because I know we're like hustle culture. I think at the end of the day, you have to find a middle ground, right? Like,
that's right.
yeah.
That's
So
right. Yeah, we don't
you
want to
can.
because you can absolutely get stuck in a trap of not releasing anything because nothing
Hmm.
is perfect, right? And
Hmm. Yeah.
that's like that's a tough thing to kind of work with, and especially in your case where it's art and it's music videos and it's like lyrics that are that once they're out there, right? And people are engaging with
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
that's a very scary thing to like let go of.
Yeah. Mm.
Um, I want to very quickly kind of ask what kind of sustaining yourself creatively has looked like, in the past year, where making trips to visit producers or to visit friends, to have come to travel to Toronto or just kind of maybe get inspired in the ways that you have. You mentioned feeling really inspired by your travels. Being limited in those ways, um, did you find yourself leaning into or resorting to or investing more time um, in different places as a means of yeah allowing for the creative juices to continue to flow? Has it been a tough year for you in terms of sustaining your creativity?
Yeah. I would say I think I think that I had already been writing a lot like before the pandemic, and it was a lot of like drafts types of things that like were not coming to fruition into actual songs because I don't like I don't produce, like I have all the sounds in my head, but I don't know how
Yeah.
to actually execute it, right? But I think ultimately it has been hard to like create new content. I think like I do thrive off of like traveling, new experiences, new places. So then when this year has been like none of that, I feel like it has been hard to kind of like for things to be just born. But somehow despite that, there has been some like maybe it hasn't been as often that I've come up with some stuff, but the stuff that I have like worked on, I've managed with like Zoom calls too. Like I've like the producer that I worked on for the song Usapeti, it was on like on Maestro's album. It's not my I'm featuring on it anyway, but like we like have been doing like Zoom sessions and like he's in Germany. Like ultimately like kind of like there's been some kind of positive, like even the fact that we're able to sit here and have this interview,
For
right?
sure.
Like we realize like, oh, we have these apps and we can
Mhm.
actually like connect and continue to do things that way. So I think like creatively, like Zoom has been a thing that has helped, even though like with like work, like I'm kind of like Zoom burned out a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I just like am holding dear like the few things the few times that I have been able to create and make things. And I've been working with like a producer close by who I'm able to work with. And
Nice.
um, I've been writing some songs that I'm like, I feel like is true to like who I am and what I want to be putting out in terms of my sound. I feel like I I'm wary of being put into this box of like this like independent Tamil female artist who's writing this type of music and is always like empowering. Yeah, like this is not necessarily like the box I think I am. As
Mhm.
great as it is a box to be in, like to be described in that way.
Mhm.
So in a way, like not having to like be at these gigs and like these expectations of other people at all these places, like I feel like I'm making this music that is fulfilling to me and I'm able to make it the way that I want it to sound and not thinking so much about like what is going to perform well. Um, as much as you do have to think about that
Yeah.
to how to think about how like feasible and sustainable like, your music career is, but
Right.
um, I think also being true to yourself is another huge part of that too. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah. That's been a theme, I think, throughout this interview is kind of reflecting on what feels right by you. And it sounds like in the past year you've prioritized that, which yeah, something we're obviously very happy to hear and happy to kind of know and excited to hear what kind of music and what kind of art comes out of that. So thanks for sharing
thank
that with us.
you. Of
Yeah,
course,
I was
thank you.
impressed with like people releasing music during last year and this year because you're making
Yeah.
music out of your, you're in your home. Maybe you're going to work, maybe taking a bus. Like, how are you really getting materials? So that's always super interesting to hear. And do you see yourself like playing around in like different genres? Because you can do anything technically.
Thanks. I yeah, I like I've been doing kind of songs with like an R&B vibe and like I mean like I feel like dance hall is like something that I've like generally like love and like I've done in my songs, but I think I've been kind of diversifying with my sound and yeah, I do think that sorry, your original question. I'm
Just
so
Well,
sorry, I
wanted
lost track.
it's just like you pretty much got it, but it's pretty much like have you thought about like going to other genres and stuff like that?
Yeah.
You said you did all that.
Yeah, yeah. I think like honestly, I've been a little bit like more hesitant because like I feel like a lot of my audience has become kind of more Tamil and
Mhm.
Mm.
I have these English songs that I feel like I'm that's my native like as in I was born here and like that I'm more fluent in English, right? And so like I do have these songs in English and I feel like I'm like I've been second guessing myself of like how people will receive it. And but I think that this time has been kind of like a nice time to like fine tune and branch out and continue to, because I do think that that's something that I look up to people who are able to be that versatile, like A.R. Rahman's, or like in MIA, like just having that versatility. I feel like it's like a quality that I admire. So I do hope to be very like expansive with the genres that I work with, and I think that that's been the case this past year.
Incredible. Country album coming next.
Oh,
Honestly, like, honestly, don't be boxed in. That's the thing. People everybody's expecting Tamil music. Shock them.
Yeah.
Give them some bluegrass.
Give them some bluegrass.
Like,
That's what they need.
yeah.
Oh wow, that angle have not explored. Thank you for giving me the idea.
Just think about it.
Honestly, yeah. Oh,
Go for it.
if I might just, I guess, because we're coming close to wrapping that up here. I just want to know, have you guys seen the film B Movie?
I did when I was young, and I, for the most part, wiped it from my memory. Have you, Rolex Rasathy, seen the movie, the B Movie?
Is it a movie about bees?
Sadly, yes. Yeah.
You're pretty on the ball. So, I consider myself a cinephile. I like great movies. Like, what's a great movie? Minari, Moonlight,
Mm-hmm.
Space Jam.
Okay.
Classic. It's still a classic.
Contentious. Yep.
But B Movie is one of those movies that kind of stops you, because essentially the storyline is this bee has a relationship with the human woman, right?
Oh, I don't remember that. Damn.
Yeah, and it's kind of amazing because she has a partner in the film who's a man, right? A guy.
Okay.
And this bee took this guy's like wife, essentially.
Wow, Mr. Steal
He's
Your
a
Girl.
bee. He's a bumblebee.
Wasn't this a kids movie, or am I thinking of something else?
This is a kids movie.
No, actually it wasn't. It was
Okay,
like
Nivake, it was a kids movie.
it wasn't a kids movie.
The B movie is a kids movie. Unless you're thinking about a different movie. The B movie was a kids movie.
No, I saw Jerry Seinfeld, right?
Yes. I gotta look up the rating right now. The B movie.
It's just they really, this was like 10 plus years ago, but they really went for it then to push boundaries and be like, you know what, we're going straight B to human, like relationship. And I think that's like something that people skip over. Like it was snubbed by the Oscars that year.
Shut up.
Like it wasn't looked at at the Academy Awards,
Okay.
Oh my god.
Just a quick thought that came to me today.
It's an important point to think about. Thank you.
Where can people watch the B Movie? I need to see what's up with this film.
It might be on Netflix, but I thoroughly encourage you torrent it. Because like, it's like, I think, look, buy everybody that you likes music, but films, like, if you're not feeling the person in real life like that, it's okay to torrent it once in a while.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Not short films, long form films.
Never short films. Try and keep the indie films out of your torrents. But thank you for that bit, Nivake. This is the place where we practice bits. So, Rolex Rasathy, thank you for enduring our bits. Sometimes we just gotta test them out. Test the waters.
I love them.
Thanks
you for having me.
Thank you for
being
being
a part.
here, and thank you for sharing all that you did with us. This was a really, really fun episode, and it was also really nice to just kind of have you open up on what not only this past years look like, but your time as an artist and as someone who's also trying to grow as a person and a human. And we're really, really, as we have been the past few years, are excited about what kind of lies ahead, and we certainly will continue to be here and cheering you on from the sidelines. So thank you again for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been like what, 2 years in the making?
2, 3, 6, who knows?
And honestly,
Um,
it's worth the wait because we gave him a flawless podcast here.
We gave him, yeah,
Aw.
flawless.
Perfect podcast.
Perfect.
Beautiful. It's gonna go up as an NFT for 0.21 ETH.
There's barely anyone who will get that reference, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Shout out to all my crypto people out there. What's going on?
Rolex Rasathy, aka Roly. Where can the people keep up with you, and what can new fans, old fans alike expect or hope to see from you this upcoming year?
Yeah. So if I am active on some social media platform, it probably will be Instagram. So you can just type in Rolex Rasathy, and I do have all those other social media pages, but Instagram generally is pretty updated with my music, and just expect to hear some cool songs this year. I don't know how else to sell it to you guys, but
No way to sell it. And also,
I hope
know
that
what?
you trust in me.
We trust you. And you know what? I
Oh.
should also, I should have been clear. Even if nothing comes out this year, you're gonna live your life as the year goes on. You're just gonna you're
Yeah.
gonna do great things. Just doesn't have to be recorded on Instagram, doesn't have to be on Spotify. You're just gonna live, you're gonna lead a healthy life, and that's more
Wow,
than enough.
thank you.
That's more
Thank you
than
so
enough.
much.
Very good point.
It's rare that you get that kind of sign off on an interview or those kind of well wishes.
Hey,
So thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
you're very, very welcome. Thank you everyone for listening to episode 84 of High Top Flip Flops featuring Rolex Rasathy. As always, you can listen to us wherever you listen to your podcasts. I don't even know how to give thumbs up or subscribes or how any of that stuff works on any of these platforms. Clearly, I'm not paying attention to it either. But if you have the propensity to do so, go right ahead. I'm clearly not keeping track either. But thanks again, everyone. Let's all say bye on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bye.
Bye.
കുമ്പിട പോന ദൈവം മുന്നലട്ട എമ്മത് പോരവാല് അത് ഞാനില്ലട്ട കുമ്പിട പോന ദൈവം മുന്നലട്ട എമ്മത്